Hello, everyone. I'm Tom. This is my good buddy. I was going to say superhero, but you are my superhero. Chasing the Graph, also known as Houston. Um, were you conceived in Houston? Is that how you got the name?
No, there's a couple of different stories floating around of how I got my name, so I don't really know which one is true.
Yeah, that's my mom likes to tease me that I was almost named Leonard Skinnerd Willis, and I don't know if she's joking or not. And I don't want to press her any further. Hey, Houston, how are you? I'm excited, really excited to have you on. I've told you, getting into the group chat, with you and Caleb has really expanded my knowledge, but also my desire to know more about wrestling in just about every form, cards, toys, the wrestlers themselves, especially. Why don't you just go back, give us a little, tell us all about Little Houston and then Teenage Houston and all that fun stuff, and then how you got into collecting or wrestling or whatever came first.
Yeah, so I grew up uh, in a not exactly wealthy household. My mom never worked, my dad did, so things were always tight. I had a older brother, and I muddled through elementary school, middle school, high school. Didn't put my best foot forward. Didn't really care. I just assumed one day I was going to be bigger than school and too cool for school. So, and I actually, uh, here in North Carolina at the time, biology was a required class to graduate high school, and I had failed it. And I was on my way to retake the test so I could walk and graduate high school. And a dude hit me in the driver's
Oh,
side door at 80 miles an hour, and I couldn't make it to take the test. Obviously, I had broken my pelvic bone in two different places, and they they passed me because they felt sorry for me, and
oh.
I technically never took the test. Technically, never passed it. They gave me a minimum passing grade, which was a 70, uh, to graduate and walk as much as you can do on crutches with a broken pelvic.
Oh man, that's horrible. My wife was in a couple accidents that left her, permanently disabled, because of her back. She was just rear-ended twice in the same year, and it was like a little bit of damage, and then like, oh, the second one was like, it's done. Are you okay? Like,
Yeah,
did you
and
have
it's funny.
permanent damage there? Or?
No, but if there's a change in Scott, I'm going to sound like an old man here. But when there is a sudden change in like barometric pressure, it does hurt, and it's the kind of you know it's more of an uncomfortableness, but there's no ibuprofen or Tylenol or anything that you can take for it. You just kind of have to pretend like it's not there. But yeah, if there's a sudden change in barometric pressure outside it, I definitely know it.
Yeah. As you get older and you just start to develop injuries, like, deep injuries. Yeah, that happens. Like storms
Yeah,
coming.
yeah,
I
and
kind
it's
of have a similar story. Um, my junior year, I had an accounting class that was ran by just the worst teacher in the world. She was like her first year's teacher, read
mhm.
straight from the book. And I figured that out early on. So I would ignore everything she had to say and I would just do the homework and read ahead. And,
Oh
I was
yeah.
just like, I hate her, whatever. She's awful. And I'm not going to learn anything. I was sick, and my cousin, we both took the class. We were both sick like the last week of school. We missed like 3 days out of the five. We came in 2 days, finished our accounting project, got an A, but she said, you need to come in and do the lab work. And she's
Ooh,
like, I need at least 8 hours of lab work because you missed, we had a block schedule. So it was like
yeah.
an hour and a half. So it was like actually like it's like 5 hours she wanted us to do, but we had to come in for a full day on a Saturday. And we're like, okay, we will come in this Saturday. And we came in and she put a note on her door that said, I can't make it today. Can you do tomorrow? And we wrote,
Oh,
no, we are babysitting his nephew and niece tomorrow. Here's our phone number. Call us. She
Mhm.
never called us, and we failed the class. And it's
Oh
like,
my
and it's
God.
like, that real world experience, like who needs me to do the work? You know what I mean? Like if I just present a project to my company and they're like, amazing. It's like, they don't care that, I spent 3 hours versus, 12. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a similar thing. Like you try to do your best, you go back in, you make that effort, and then life just finds a way to. Mine's not as bad as yours. Mine, she just hated me, and rightfully so. I said some nasty stuff to her, but
I've definitely had teachers where, oil and water, there was just nothing we were going to do to get along. And, they were out to get me. I was out to get them.
I was doing my homework. Like I said, my head was down, and she asked a question, and I just said something really snarky but nasty. And then I
Yeah.
look over, and every girl that was sitting next to me had her head turned. And then my cousin, who was like right behind me, like smacks me in the back of the head, and I look up, and apparently I said it loud enough for the whole class. And I was like, yeah, I'll just go to the principal's office. like
I'll
I'm
see
16,
myself out.
But no, well, yeah, you just kind of had you're a kid, you didn't care. What happened after that?
Yeah. So, pretty much, everything was, normal, for the first few years. And, I got a job working at Elon University, uh, about 3 or 4 years after I graduated, for their dining services. And there was two guys I worked with at the time. I always loved football. I was a Cowboys fan up until the Panthers, became a team in '94, and then me and my dad made the switch to the Panthers. I was a big Panthers fan, and the Panthers drafted Cam Newton, and two of the guys I worked with, they were big, sports nuts too, and they were already in collecting. And so I never actually bought my first set of cards until Cam Newton was drafted, and I wanted his rookie card because the two guys I was working with, we all know the hobby peer pressure. Like, oh man, if you get the Cam Newton rookie variation card, you can retire tomorrow. And I'm like,
That's when I got back into collecting, 2011, because I was chasing
yep,
Von Miller. We kind of had that same
exactly,
time.
yeah,
Yeah, we have the same kind of memory path there. So yeah,
yeah.
go ahead, talk about your buddy. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, it's the same class. Yeah, and so I was working a shift at the time. It was 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I would get my lunch breaks at like 11 at night, and so very little, to very almost no crowds at Walmart or anything like that. And that was a time when the hobby wasn't on fire, so I could go in Walmart at 11 o'clock on my lunch break and just pick out a box of cards from the shelf and stuff like that. And then as the ball rolls, you buy one box of cards, you get something kind of cool, you buy another, and then you're hooked. And then my brother had moved to Texas around 2008. I went out there about 2010 and visited him, and we toured the new Cowboys AT&T Stadium, and we did a little tour of the Texas Rangers ball field out there in Arlington, and that's when I got into the Rangers. I became a Rangers fan after visiting the stadium and kind of having that tiny little connection with it and everything. So then,
Yeah.
about the same time, 2011, when I was buying football cards, I was like, let me give baseball a shot. So pretty much since 2011 up until like 6 months ago, was doing the stick and ball sports.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been a wrestling fan? What got you into wrestling?
My dad watched it because it was a lot. It was very popular in the '70s and '80s, and then the late '80s to early '90s. There kind of wasn't a whole lot going on in the wrestling scene, and WCW, come out in the mid '90s and everything. And my dad started watching it, and then me and my brother started watching it. Every Monday night, it was you flip back and forth between WWF at the time and WCW,
Yep.
and we were doing we just got hooked on it. It was like wrestling was like a drug to us, and we didn't think we never had like we're going to be a wrestler one day or anything like that. But we grew up in a neighborhood where there was like 4 or 5 other kids within 3 or 4 years of our age. So we were out in the yard. We were, doing tag team matches and bouncing off the trampoline. And I was the test dummy, I guess. I was the one that took the sheet pans to the head
The
and
big
the
bumps.
yeah. I was the one that wasn't, scared to get put through a table and break something. And we were just doing some of the sketchiest shit in our backyard. And it was like,
Yeah.
it'd be 4 of us, it'd be 8 of us or whatever. We do a little Royal Rumble. We do like the tag team. We do singles, and we'd have tournaments in the backyard. Most of it was on the trampoline, so we were somewhat protected. But I was the one that they would hit with fluorescent lights or barbed wire bat, and yeah, yeah, I was the test dummy, if you will.
Oh man. Yeah,
And
my
then
buddy Che Ian Sports Cards. I don't know if you know Che. He has a little heart blue and red logo for his Twitter. Great guy. He popped in the chat. He said, "Y'all talking about wrestling tonight?" Yeah, we're gonna talk a lot about wrestling, but also just about Houston and everything else. So I think I told this story in our group chat one time. My dad got into wrestling because he made fun of me one night. He was like, he turned it on. He's like, "This is the shit you like to watch," and it was Mankind doing a promo when he was doing the feud with The Rock. And my dad
yep.
watched it, and he was like, "That guy's amazing." And I was like, "Yeah." And then he got into it and watched. But we were building our convenience store. We tore down the old one and we're building a new one.
Mhm.
And I was helping him, do all the construction stuff. And though they hit you over the head with a garbage can lid on the show, but it's more like a turkey pan. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of aluminum foil, not like the steel that the actual garbage cans have. And he was like, "Hey, Tom." And I turned around and he just went, "What?" And I was just like, I was not like concussed, but like almost, I was just like,
Oh,
I was like, "What the hell, Dad? That's not what they use." Like, it's like, just watch it. If you see, they have like the chairs turned around, so it's like, it doesn't have the curve. They're not hitting with the curve. Like, no folding chair looks like the ones they have on wrestling. Like, pay attention, Dad. And he just laughed and wanted to elbow me off the ladder. And I was like, "No, man." But that's as far as I got with the like wrestling interaction. I used to try to be Jeff Hardy, where I would like run and jump on like parkour, like little things, and then jump off of something. But as a bigger kid, sometimes I went horribly wrong. Like I did a standing jump onto something someone didn't think I could do, and I made it. And then I instantly fell, like almost knocked myself out like 3 feet back on my head. So, that was the time for me. I would tape one or the other. Like, okay, am I going to be home on Monday night? Okay, I'm going to tape the WWF Raw because WCW starts earlier, and I'm going to be home to watch it. And then if like, oh, I'm going to have some stuff to do or I got work, I'm going to tape WCW and then I'm just going to watch Raw, live. And that's how it was. And like immediately watch it, one after the other. It was 5 hours of just straight wrestling bliss. And I think WCW replayed it later that night too. So if you missed the first one, you could catch the other one.
Yeah.
So, so there's more like that going on. But people talk about like setting their VCR and programming it. I learned how to do that for wrestling. Like this is the time, this is the channel, and set, and it would just record, have the same tape, wear it out, throw it, wear it out. But
so I kind of getting into wrestling taught you a life skill.
Yeah, that's no longer usable.
A small window of time, it was a life skill.
Yeah, but I was like you guys, like in the 80s, we used to watch the WWF and, Hogan and the WrestleMania tapes my brothers would rent. And then like late 80s, early 90s, there wasn't much. And I didn't get into like late 90s, like 97, 98, with the Stone Cold, The Rock, the Mankind really going on with that stuff. And then like in like the early 2000s, I kind of stopped, like 2003 or 4. I don't know hardly any of these wrestlers. Have you been watching the whole time, or have you taken breaks.
Very much paralleled with you. The early 2000s, we got out of it, and I think I don't know why we got out of it. I don't know if just kind of life happened or we just got bored with it. We thought the storylines or the writing was bad,
They
and
dropped the F and became the E. That's
yeah,
what happened.
I do know that we were pro WCW. And then we would catch maybe like the last hour, last 30 minutes of Raw or Raw is War,
Yeah.
what you want to call it. And then,
Warzone. Yeah.
yeah. And then when I think it was like December of 96 or 97 when the WWF launched the Attitude Era, that's when we were like, the hell with WCW doesn't even exist. And we were 100% all in on WWF, and it turns out we fell right into what Vince McMahon and the WWF wanted, because for a while WCW was handling them in the ratings, and they were from it. I take wrestling articles with a grain of salt. I really do. The few things I've read, so they were like a year away from going out of business completely, and
Wow.
then Vince introduced the Attitude Era, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. Vince is a very smart businessman. You know what I mean? He could have. Sometimes you got to get lucky, but you got to push your vision and you got to go for it. He had nothing. I mean, he had everything to lose, but he had nothing to lose by doing that. And yeah, WCW, it did overtake because it was grabbing those, older stars, and it had a lot of young people, and the excitement, and the 3 hours versus, 2 hours, and live versus taped. That was a, bummer. Sometimes you were reading the internet back then and you'd be like, oh, they spoiled Raw for me on the internet, but then WCW was just spoiling Raw live on the air anyway. So it's like,
because Chopper called them. What did he call them? The Whiny something Federation, and it was funny. But he would say the results over at the Whiny whatever Federation, and it would read off the winners of the match.
Yeah, WCW, man, when they had Arquette win the title because of the movie and stuff, it was just like, come on, guys. This is some weird crap. And then they didn't do the merger very well with WWF and WCW. That kind of was a disappointing thing. Then that's kind of, I don't remember much after that. Like, I wasn't there for John Cena much, or CM Punk, or any of the people that are like the old people go nuts for now. Like, I've never watched Roman Reigns wrestle. And it's nothing against him. It's just not my time. And I got back. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch WWE because that's what I like. Yeah. I couldn't get into it. And then I got, I forced myself to watch AEW, and I was like, well, this sucks too, but I like it a little more. And then I just, because at the it's like, this isn't what I'm used to. And I realized like things change, and it's like, okay. But, I forced myself, and like after 2 months, I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, I love it now. And now it all makes sense to me. I'm attached to my guys. Jericho. And that's about it. And when I started watching again, Sting, showed up for Darby, and I was like, well, that's weird. He's like 90 years old, but they're using him well, I think. But, but it's like, okay. And now, you just need to focus. Like, if you're thinking about getting into watching wrestling now, you're just going to have to force yourself. Like, sit down, force it. And then once you figure out like who's who and what's going on, you'll probably start liking a few people and be like, hey, that's my guy. That's this. And that's who I want to collect or whatever. So how did you transition to the wrestling cards?
Basically, I don't really have like a good answer for it. It just got to the point where during the pandemic, the stick and ball sports were becoming extremely hard to find. You have to put in so much work to find anything in stores. And if you don't have a bot or monitor, you're not really getting anything online. Yeah. I never collected NBA cards, and never been into the NBA, so that wasn't a huge issue for me. So finding football was hard and it was frustrating, but I still had baseball, which was number one for me anyway. And then I started going through, trading card database and looking at, Luis Robert and Jordan Alvarez and just looking at how many cards they already had printed. And I'm just like, this isn't, it's just not fun anymore to pull a card and be like, damn, look at that. And then you go on eBay and there's already like 6,000 sold and 400,000 more listed. And, you mentioned Caleb collecting with C on Twitter. He was living here at the time and he was looking for cards in stores. I was looking for cards in stores. We had ran into each other a few times in Target and Walmart, looking for cards. And like he said in our group chat, he kind of preached the gospel about wrestling cards. And this is when I had already kind of gotten back into wrestling, looking at watching AEW, really hitting the independents hard here, doing my work that I do with ALW.
Yeah.
And it just clicked. It did. It's like, when I have a wrestling card, if it, is an indie card or like the all in cards or something like that, it's like, holy shit, I actually have something, and
Yeah.
and most of those wrestling cards, the all in ones, and even now some of the AEW Upper Deck stuff, people's like, oh shit, that's nice.
Yeah. Those, I remember we talked about it. I was like, I think I'm gonna get a hobby box of AEW because it's gonna be like $100, and then it was like sold out instantly, and it's like $200. I was like, no, I'll just get a blaster, and now it's like blasters are all gone. It's like the switch happened, you can find football cards and basketball cards at Walmart and Targets now, but the AEW, there's not a chance you're gonna find it. So I was just like,
Yeah, it's wild.
you had some great luck with some AEW cards, with some of the blasters. You pulled some biggers.
Yeah, yeah. I think I found the first six blasters on Thursdays, and by like Sunday total, I had like 15 or something like that. And me being overzealous and everything, I was like, I'm gonna rip a few and then hold a few and maybe rip them a month from now or something. That
You ripped that first one. You're like, these are loaded, babe. We gotta get them all.
exactly.
Go back. You said your work for the ALW. Tell everyone what that is.
Yeah. Do you want the long story, which is not that long, but it's long?
Yeah, the long story's fine. We got time to fill.
So, I had when I started chasing the graph, I was like, I don't want to be just another member of the hobby. I want to do something different. And being a huge autograph collector, I was like, you know what? I'm going to interview celebrities and athletes about their autograph experiences. It's going to be very, clear cut and dry. I'm going to ask them all 3 questions if they've ever autographed anything weird, if they've ever been denied an autograph themselves, and if they could have one autograph themselves, whose would it be? And that, I had a lot of luck with that. Interviewed some really famous people, and one of the guys I interviewed was Don Kernodle, who was Sergeant Slaughter's tag team partner back in the NWA and had some very iconic matches back in the 70s and 80s. And he actually lived here in Burlington, and we did the in-person interview. I met him. We did it at a coffee shop here, got to know him. We stayed in touch, for a little over a year. We'd call each other every now and then, that kind of thing. And he actually got some bad news about his health one day and went home that night and took his own life. So at his visitation, I met a gentleman, Wild Thing, Larry Isley, who I had met years before at an independent show here before I really even knew what independent wrestling was. And him and my grandfather were friends, so we got to talking. And we were talking about chasing the graph and about the ALW, and he was like, "Man, you've got a much more diverse following than the ALW does. Would you mind coming in and being kind of like our podcaster and just getting some of our talent out there that's not known, maybe in front of some more people?" Absolutely, let's do it. So I went in and watched a couple of their shows, met a couple of the guys, watched them a few times, and interviewed some of them, cut some promos with some of them. One of them actually threw me in the corner because I asked him a question I shouldn't have, and
that sounds amazing. I mean, yeah. It does, doesn't it? I mean, you lived it, so you would know if it's true or not. But for so many of us, it's like, yeah, I can't wrestle, but if a wrestler would just smack me or, you know, do something to me, that would just be just as good for me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, jabroni, you know, like get up one of the guys that's walking in the back of like an AEW or a Raw, and then the guy wrestler throws a fit and like super kicks me for no reason, you know, like I'm just catering. But sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're fine. And then yeah, just I've been involved with them ever since then, and you know, I'm a sponsor of theirs now. I really want those guys to succeed because there's not but one other independent promotion within like 30 miles. So them being here is kind of a monopoly for them. And so I'll do whatever I can to get their name out there and to see them succeed, and sponsoring them, doing videos for them, doing promos for them, or sharing a promo flyer for them or something like that. And that in turn is what also got me involved with the Nightmare Factory, which
yes, that's what I wanted to get to next. So
we'll just piggyback right on into that.
Yeah, that was perfect. You're great at interviews. You know how to get this thing going. I don't even need to. You're just gonna try, you know, transition us to right there. Because of you, I've, you know, got involved with following some of the Nightmare Factory people, and you know, and it's expanding, and they're talking back and they're following back, and I'm learning more. So yeah, please tell everyone about them and why they should be checking them out.
Yeah. So,
first, what is the Nightmare Factory? And then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, the Nightmare Factory is Cody Rhodes training academy program, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's a 12-week program where he takes people like Rosario and Hunter, who were, you know, Hunter was a waiter at Olive Garden before, and within 12 weeks they're ready to go to TV, to go to AEW Dark Elevation, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall's training facility. Both of those, well, we all know the controversy surrounding Cody right now. It's no secret.
We don't know where Cody is, but we know QT is still rocking the AEW, and most of the people from the Nightmare Factory you will see like on an AEW Dark or Dark Elevation show, along with independent stuff. So
absolutely, yeah, and they are in Georgia, and like I said, it's a 12-week program, and then they go out into the world on their own, and they're ready. And the ALW has Nightmare Factory Live events, which is different students from different classes. I think they're up to they're in the middle of like class 5 now. And so I show up, Nightmare Factory Live, and I'm talking to all these guys. And at the time, I didn't know it was Cody Rhodes training facility. I didn't know that it was loosely related to or involved with AEW. So I show up, and Wild Thing, Larry Isley is like, hey, man, I want you to interview this guy, Luke Sampson from the Nightmare Factory. And I'm just like, I didn't bring my camera. I didn't know this. This is what we were doing. So he introduces me to Luke, and we get to talking. And Luke's like, you know what? I got some guys I want to introduce you to. So we walk over to one of the gimmick tables, and they're standing Hunter, Rosario, and Kat. And we start talking, and they were like, you know, we would love to do an interview down the road and that kind of thing. So watched them that night with Luther from, you know, AEW. And we got home, and I just, you know, they had given me their business card with their Twitter handles on it, and I followed them. And it sounds so weird, but at the time I had like 1,600 followers, and they had like 400 or 500. It's so weird. And so I'm
we helped sorry, real quick. We just helped like Hunter get to 1,000 and Trip Jordan get to 1,000, and we're pushing these like wrestlers who are extremely talented
I
And it's like,
know.
I have 3 times the followers you do. This, like, you're honestly like, this is crazy to me because, like, you know, you got your Twitch channel, you got the wrestling house, you got all this stuff. And it's
Yep.
like, you only have like 800 followers. Like, I just don't understand Twitter sometimes. Like, you're a wrestler. Promote yourself, man. Like, you should be doing promos and pushing yourself out, but they're so nice though. It's not like you don't get the ego, you know, with them. And it's just kind of like, that's why it's so easy to love them. So yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
You're absolutely right, and that that's where exactly where I was going with that. Me and you once again, right there. I'm about to go to bed. I have my phone, and I'm like, let me, pop their Twitters in real quick. And I followed them, go in the bathroom, do my nighttime routine, brush my teeth, and I put my phone on charge. And I had a couple of Twitter notifications. I looked at it, and it's like, boom, Hunter followed you back. Jay Grillo followed you back. Cat Spencer followed you back. And I'm just sitting here. You would have thought like Jesus himself came back and was like, I'm following you on Twitter. I was like, I was so excited. I was so happy because these guys had met me once. And I know a general rule for bigger celebrities and bigger, athletes is they don't follow people they don't know, which is fully
Yeah,
understandable because
understandable.
they don't want their timeline, clogged with a bunch of, pictures of
Stuff like
trees.
me. They follow me and then they mute me instantly, or they just, like, block or whatever. It's like, this guy posts 150 times a day of just garbage, man. Like, let's just clean this up. But yeah, and it's weird because, like, you talked about them and you're like, you kept mentioning the Nightmare Factory, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go follow them. I think you had either interviewed TSF or Cat. And I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to go follow him because that was my, like, I need to learn more about indie wrestling. So I followed them. I followed Alley Catch and Effie, because of Caleb. He's a big bussy. I still don't know how to say it properly. So I'm going to say it both. But them and, and I'm just picking up others here and there based off that. But it's, and I was just like, yeah. Chasen told me to follow you guys. He said you guys are awesome, and I want to learn about independent wrestlers. And like immediately, one of them followed me back. And I was like, hell yeah, he's our guy. And I was like, sweet. Yeah. And then like I kept interacting, and then like the other one followed. I don't know if it was Rosario first or Hunter first, but it was like quick. And then I don't care if they follow me back or not. I'm not a you have to follow me back guy. I don't care. I'm going to interact with you regardless. So you're going to tweet. I'm going to do stuff with it. You don't need to interact with my tweets. It's
exactly.
But yeah, they were just like, he's our guy. He's so awesome. And I was like, who is this guy? Because I was still new. And it's you do the work with them, and you've done stuff, and I've seen your interviews. I watched the one with Kat a while back, and then the emo heads gal, I love her. She's hysterical.
Yeah, Brooke Havoc. Yeah,
Brooke Havoc. See, I'm still learning. I'm bad. She's hilarious, and her interview was great. So yeah, you're doing this stuff for the AL, and then did you have your own interview stuff? Okay, so tell us about your show. Like, what do you do? And then just tell everyone when and where they can watch it real quick, so we get that in before I forget.
Yeah, so I kind of piggyback off my stuff with the ALW because I called it Over the Top Rope, and so I kind of got the blessing to use even though it's not like anything official, it's not specific ALW, it's not their podcast or anything like that. They're like, if you want to just broaden it out to whatever you do, we don't really care, it's because this isn't like an official contracted, like you're our podcaster, you can't talk to anybody else kind of thing. And so it's called Over the Top Rope. Same with you. I go live through StreamYard. And basically what I had learned the more I got into the independent scene is there is all these just absolutely phenomenal wrestlers who are not on TV, who are not put in front of the public 2-3 times a week, they'll go to a show. There may be 10 people at that show. There may be 100. And so it's like these guys are so good. They're so talented. They have 110 followers on Twitter, and they don't even have their own like business, Facebook page.
Yeah.
So that's where Over the Top Rope came in. I just really wanted to give these guys that I see, and I'm like, holy shit, they've got it. They're putting it all out there. They deserve to be seen. And so I give them the platform to tell their story and to let everyone know what they can expect when they come see them. And it also gives people, because we see the gimmicks, you see the MJFs and the heels and everything else, but this also gives you a glimpse into them as who they are as a real person, and not in a gimmick, not in a crowd, yelling, why don't you tell your wife to take a real man home tonight or something. And so I just really wanted to give these guys that really are good, but they don't have that push of being on TV. So these guys on TV, yeah, it would be nice to interview, like MJF or something like that. I would jump at the chance to do it. But they don't, they don't need the exposure. They don't need someone to hear their story, because they've got, like Chris Van Vliet, telling their story, AEW telling their story, or they're on another wrestler's podcast telling their story, or Pat McAfee, something like that.
Yeah.
But I just really wanted to give the guys that people may not know that platform to tell their story and really give the people a glimpse of who they are.
Yeah, and it's really, and I want to hate Hogan. I saw parts of that one, because that one was funny to me, because you were like, who do you want to see? And I somehow hate, and I crossed paths on like Twitter, and I was like, I like you now. I'm following you. And you were like, who do you want to see? And I was like, hey, Hogan's my guy. And he's like, okay. I was like, this is cool. I want to say something. Like we talked about Effie. Effie does Monday Night Not Raw, where he's on his Twitch, and he shows independent matches. And, he's hysterical. He does his thing. But if you watch those matches, like I watched like the whole like 5-hour thing like 2 weeks ago, you're going to see Thunder Rosa wrestle, someone else. You're going to see Chris Statlander wrestle Mercedes Martinez, and it's like, these are the like stars now, but they were independent, and they're coming up. And sometimes, Thunder Rosa was wrestling GCW. Ruby Soho, she just did a GCW match, versus Allie Katch. These wrestlers, especially on the AEW side, I don't think much more on the WWE. I think they kind of have more of a control of like, what you can and cannot do. And that makes sense to me, because they're like corporate brand, and AEW is just like, we're going to be anti that. So we're going to let our wrestlers kind of do whatever. But if you go to these shows, you are seeing that level of talent. Sorry, I'm trying to get equal here, and I'm just like crowd. You're going to see what you see on TV. And it's, back then, like in the 90s and 80s, if you saw like an independent show, it wasn't going to be as good. It was going to be fun. It was going to be great, but you were going to see like the top of the talent. You see that in these shows. The talent is all there. You know what I mean? It's not like there's this level of talent and, you go to this show and there's no one. Everyone is amazingly talented now. And it's just about exposure, their gimmick, and can they get, can they talk on the mic? And yeah, that varies, because there's some people in the bigs, I'll just say the bigs, the big TV stuff, that aren't that great on the mic, but they have the talent and the persona that kind of pushes that. But these guys, they are just as talented as them. Like you see them pop up on, squash matches, unfortunately. That's what AEW usually does with this independent talent. That's like so amazing. It's just like, we're going to have Jade Cargill kick you in the face once, or Serena Deeb, toy with you for 5 minutes. And it's just like, I wish they would get a little bit more of a, exposure, but you understand it. Any exposure is great, and it's just business. So, our friend, sorry.
I kind of lose sleep sometimes knowing that some of the guys that I see around here and I'm friends with around here, like JR Miller from the Nightmare Factory, Class 4, and Fodder, who's doing a lot of stuff with EC3 and Braun Strowman and Control Your Narrative. I lose sleep, knowing how good they are, and they go to AEW Dark and you know get kicked 3 or 4 times, and then the match is over. I
Yeah.
lose sleep. I do.
I mean, even squash matches on like Raw and WCW in like the late 90s at least had a little bit more going on. I just want to say my friend Katie, she's from Canada,
Mhm.
underdog there in the chat. She says they have GCW there in Ontario. And yeah, I think it's just kind of, it's like the biggest independent kind of thing right now. Is that correct? Or am I just high and way off base?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I kind of think it may have taken over NWA as that top throne because in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and a little bit of the 90s, the NWA was it. That
Yeah.
was
In the
that was
South.
like AAA. You're getting caught up in 10 games as long as you don't get hurt, kind of thing. And I definitely think GCW has kind of dethroned them as the top, independent promotion.
Right on. Because like NWA, didn't they have a TV show for a while and with Jeff Jarrett or I like that's the time period I'm not with, so I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, like go to these, like if you watched Attitude Era and you love Jeff Hardy, go watch an independent show because almost every single one of them is Jeff Hardy. You know what I mean? It's high flying. Even the big guys. The big guys are doing moonsault, suicinas, and crazy, crazy stuff. It's amazing. And then talking to you and Caleb's awesome collection of like the independent cards and stuff.
Yep.
It's like I just want to learn, and I don't want to like I don't want nothing from them. Like I don't want to be like I don't want to do interviews with wrestlers. I'm not trying to get into
Definitely.
that business. I'm not trying to like find steals on cards. I'm trying to entertain myself with like the best entertainment, but also kind of like be prepared for like, and have people to root for and be like, oh yeah, that's that Nightmare Factory guy. Houston told me about, and he is making it to Raw or the WWE, or he's the GCW champion. Just like that's how I was back then. It was taping Raw, taping Nitro, staying up late watching ECW with my mom and her chanting EC Dub with me, like
Yeah.
this to have it all in. And I don't want that from the WWE. I want that from the independents now. And that's where
Absolutely.
I'm trying to learn from, is because like I just mentioned, the talent is all the same. And so you're going to get just as entertaining matches at a house show as you are on TV most of the time. I mean, there's some charismatic people that you can't replace, you know what I mean? So,
Oh, absolutely.
but for like the
Absolutely.
physical aspects of it, it's all pretty much the same. So, that's why I want to learn. It's like these people are so great, and they're also interactive.
Yep.
You have that access to them. Not that you're entitled to that access, don't get me wrong, but they interact with you because they're like, if I'm more active on Twitter, you might come to my show. You know what I mean? And you might tell a program you want to see me. So and we're all helping each other out with the independent wrestlers. Like we can share who we like with others, and then those others will share, and then our wrestlers will get booked, and we'll be able to see them. And then finally, our favorite guys are going to be, doing all kinds of crazy stuff on TV. And I need more better wrestling TV. I guess I need to subscribe to Fight TV, honestly. It's what I need to do. That's what I'm saying. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, why not? Because I love AEW, and but I like Dark a lot more, and I like Dark Elevation a lot more because you do get that independent talent in there. And there was a match a few weeks ago on, I think it was Dark Elevation. It was the main event. It was Alexander Moss versus Jay Lethal, and Alexander Moss wrestles here at Firestar. I've met him. We did an interview together not too long ago. But that match was so good, even for it to be a dark match, and Jay Lethal put him over so well. There were articles about it, like rookie Alexander Moss pushes veteran Jay Lethal to his limits, and it's like most people, they might watch Dark or Dark Elevation, but they probably watch it because they want to see the guys that they won't see on a regular, Dynamite or Rampage, like Nick Camarado or Jay Lethal. He's made a couple of appearances on Rampage and stuff like that. But that's probably why more people watch it, so they can see like Luther and Jay Lethal. But I watch it for the independent talent. I do, even though I know they're going to lose and it may be a 1 minute match, or there may be some spots in there that are actually great. And then you can tell a lot by that independent wrestler just in that even like 5 to 6 minute time frame.
Yeah, and I have a hard time because it's on YouTube, and like doing my show now, and yeah, I can go back and watch it, but usually I don't have much time to catch it, and I do enjoy it when I do. If you haven't watched the AEW stuff, it has a very independent feel to it. They are goofing around a lot more. Like they can't do certain stuff like on, Dynamite, they have lately with Billy Gunn doing like the crotch chops and stuff, but he was doing that and he yelled like "suck it" on the AEW Dark, and you're just like, Teenage Tom is like, yes. I approve. But there's also more like silly, like they're just having fun showcasing each other, in the good matches, not the squash matches. But the squash matches, usually the other person gets at least 1 or 2 little like spots that like, I'm like, you can't, and then bam, it's like Wardlow power bombing him 18 times, and you're like, yeah, okay. Yeah. But like, does that drive you nuts? Like, I just kind of saw like the Jade Cargill, the Wardlows, every match is a squash, and it's because they're not developed yet. You know what I mean? Like, I like Wardlow and I like Jade. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to diss them, but it's the Goldberg thing, like all over again for me. Like if any match lasted more than 5 minutes, they would be gassed and it would be horrible. So that's why they have to do this. But that kind of still bothers me. Like they have a great persona and a character, but it's still like, can we get the people that are actually ready to go before you just shove them out? How do you feel about that?
No, I agree with you completely. And I was in an AEW group on Facebook. It had like 112,000 members or something like that. And I posted in there one day that Wardlow was my, okay, it's time to get something to drink out of the refrigerator and bathroom break time match. And kind of thought maybe it would pop off, that thread would pop off when I posted it, but I didn't expect it to have like 350 comments of people saying you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. And so I was just like, it is what it is. Back in, even before the first of the year, back in 2021, I would have popped off, I would have clapped back and trolled some people or something like that. But there's nothing exciting about that. And the fact that AEW has arguably way too many stars on their roster to have matches like that happen, it just makes no sense to me. If they're setting up something like they kind of hinted at where Wardlow was in the middle of power bombing, I think it was CM Punk, and he wanted to stop, and MJF told him to keep going, so he walks up and gets in MJF's face and kind of like starts grabbing his hand and twisting it, and everybody's like, oh shit, Wardlow's gonna finally turn on MJF. I can understand that, but Wardlow coming out and power bombing somebody that we've never heard of 14 times, putting his foot on their chest, 1, 2, 3, like, you could put Jay Lethal in somewhere, he tore his ACL back in January, but you could put Jake Atlas in there somewhere, or just any other star like Red Velvet, who is very good and I think should be on TV a lot more, or hell, even Thunder Rosa, you could put her in there a lot more. So it's just no point in it. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's, we've all been excited at the signings that AEW has. The WWE released a lot of people, and you're like, Malachi Black, awesome, Aleister Black's here, and Adam Cole, and it's Brian Daniel, and I was excited for those because those are some of the wrestlers I have actually heard about before. So I
Absolutely.
was pumped, and then it just kept coming, and I'm like, you have 3 hours of TV, not including the dark, and like CM Punk's going to take 20 minutes a week for something, and like where does this all fit in? But and then they have all the natural young talent that you guys built up with, Hangman Adam Page, and all these other people, and
Absolutely.
and it is AEW is different than the WWF that I'm from, where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, their champ's gonna wrestle, every other week or something, and then the big pay-per-view match. And now it's
Yeah.
like there's the pay-per-view match and segments, and it's kind of like this is weird, but I get it, but I don't like, you know what I mean? It's like if they're talented, I want to see them wrestle. If they're hurt, like Kenny Omega was,
Yeah.
or like, maybe CM Punk's not ready for like a brutal, those kind of people, yeah, you could do that kind of stuff with. But like, is Hangman hurt? Like he seems young. You throw him
Yeah.
out there, build some excitement for him. It's kind of a weird wrestling watch if you're used to the old way, and it's
Yeah.
still kind of bugs me. But yeah, they're so talented, and just those squash matches, like we know he's a badass, that's his character. Like we don't need this ridiculousness. And and then people like there's like the bunny, and she's just a jobber for like the women's thing. But it's like the more I look into people like that, it's like, no, she's actually like really talented and she could do a lot if they just developed her instead of just, but hey, if they're like, Tom, do you want to be a jobber? I'd be like, yeah. I'll do it.
I would job out for the amount of money that they job out to, for sure.
A jobber is a person that they bring in to just lose matches, but is kind of credible, like, yeah. So if you don't know wrestling that well,
Yeah.
Gareth Miller popped in and he said, when is Chasen going to interview Gerald? And he said, wrestling sucks, but Chasen rocks. Wrestling
You're the
can
man,
suck,
Gareth.
and wrestling is awesome. Is there a little feud back and forth between you and Gerald? What's going on there?
No, he's been asking to be on Graph Talk forever, and I just never really got around to it, Every time he says something, and it's like he has like how can I say this? A really good knack for finding the worst times to ask me about.
And also, Gerald, do something interesting so you have something interesting to talk about, and then you come back on our shows. Like you've been on my show twice, and I said, hey, just start making some content, like make it like 3 YouTube videos, and then I'll have you back, no problem. But I want to talk about that stuff and get you going. And he's still like, oh, it's too hard. I was like, film yourself talking about SmackDown that you just watched for 5 minutes. Like that's content, and it's, I love the guy, but he's just dragging his feet on some stuff. And it's like, you can't just be a guest on a show. Well, a Tom show you can, but other people have brands that they care about. I don't. So, so let's you feel good about our wrestling talk? You want to kind of transition back to some other stuff, or is there anything you wanted to mention? We joked about TPW, which are my initials, earlier today. You said you don't think I'd be a good heel, and I kind of laughed at you. I was close from snapping, man. I want to be like the worst Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon type, like wrestling owner in the world. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. And man, that's like the dream job for me, is just to be the guy that ruins the popular wrestler's life. So did you have some stuff you want to talk about or announce, or?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I've been working on, I've got some feelers out there for some interviews, and as easy as they are to come by, they're even harder to come by, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah, we went to the ALW had a show this past Saturday we were at, and they had Gunner there, formerly known as Jackson Riker, in NXT WWE. He was in WWE from 2017 up until about November of last year, and he was released and kind of fumbled around retirement and everything, but decided, no, I'm going to come back to the independents, and kind of third party middleman. They're like, yo, let's work out an interview with him. And I was like, you don't have to ask me. And so they're like, be there at 6. And I was like, I'll be there at 6. I'll be there at 5:45 because it was in a bar. And so I'm like, I'll get there a little early, try to scope out the best place, where there's not, 15,000 people drinking and screaming and stuff.
Yeah.
And so get there at 5:45. Some of the other guys from the ALW they're practicing, and 6 o'clock comes around, 6:10, 6:15, and the actual show didn't start till 9. And so I was going to do the interview, come back home, grab my wife, and then go back. And so like 6:30 came around, and I hadn't seen, Gunner yet or whatever. So I was like super excited about that interview. I posted about it a couple of times, and it just didn't happen. And I was, kind of bummed about it. I felt more stupid than anything, because I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get to do this interview, and then it just doesn't happen. But that's the way it goes. I've been stood up more than once on an interview where guys are like, let's do it at this time on this day, and we'll knock it out, and they never showed up. So it just comes with the territory, and that's the ugly side, I guess, of someone like me trying to be a podcaster as such, without any credibility, without any notoriety, without anybody really knowing who I am. It comes with the territory, and I hate posting about it, and then they don't happen because that makes me look bad, And everybody was like, damn, Jason said he was going to do an interview the other day, and I hadn't seen it yet. I don't think anybody's watching that closely, but at the same time, it's like, come on, I'd rather somebody, and I've said this a lot, I'd rather me reach out to somebody and be like, hey, I'd love to get an interview with you, a huge fan of yours, and I'd love to, give you a chance to tell your story. And I'd rather them write me back and be like, absolutely fucking not. Like, don't you
makes you feel better, honestly, than the are we doing this? Like, are we doing this? Like sending a text and it's just like a friend on Twitter. You're like, you said 6, like it's 6:30. Like, where are you? Oh, I thought we said 8. And you're like, bro, you picked the time, man. Like, and I'm like, totally different, but also the same, it's just, it's hurting cats when you're doing a show. Because people have their own, they have lives, they have their things to do. They have whatever's going on that day. On top of the, like, I don't have stuff planned out that far in advance. Like 2 weeks is usually the most I plan out, because I don't expect people to remember that they agreed to my show unless it's like the week before, you know what I mean? So, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I'd be like, Tom's booked up till May, and then every single guest like, no, or, oh, I quit cards, or, my Twitter got suspended, and and then you're just like feeling with solo shows, me dancing like a monkey. But yeah, just be honest, be like, hey, like, I don't know you, and I don't think you're big enough to help me. Honest rejection is way better than being ghosted from your kindness. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, sure, we could do it, and then not ever have any attention to it. Just the straight honest pain is better than the ghosting and the uncertainty. So
yeah, you're exactly right. I'm a grown ass man. I've had my feelings hurt before. I might be kind of mad for about 5 or 10 minutes, but I'll get over it, and then I'll move on to the next one.
Our friend Katie here says, does the name Michael Elgin sound familiar? It does not sound familiar to me. Does it sound familiar to you?
No.
Sorry, Katie. It does not ring any bells for us. So we'll look it up later, and I'll send you a DM or something, because I need to talk to you about cards I want to send to Canada. I've never sent cards to Canada. She sent me cards, but I've got to repay the favor, and I'm like, how? It's a whole other country. It's strange and foreign to me. I don't know how to do this.
I have shipped cards safely to Canada with 2 forever stamps, and it went really, really well. And I've shipped cards to Canada with 2 forever stamps, and it did not go well. Do with that what you want to.
Yeah, I think She said it's an independent wrestler who worked with Ring of Honor. She thinks Ring of Honor. Didn't they go under? They're kind of in hiatus because they just that was another big one. That was
that was how AEW got Jay Lethal. Was they kind of shut the doors temporarily / permanently / taking a break / gone forever.
And that's just how it is. That's why you need to support your independents.
Absolutely.
The promotions, they're gonna come and go, but those wrestlers are still gonna need jobs, and there's still other promotions that will happily book them. You just need to let them know that, hey, I want to see Alley Catch. I want to see TSF. No one knows what TSF stands for. They won't tell you. It stands for Tom's Sexy Feet. Little secret. All you Nightmare Factory fans, TSF, Tom's Sexy Feet.
Yep. I don't think it stands. I think it's in the dictionary too, but that's what it stands for.
I posted that and they didn't debunk it, so facts.
I do know they say what?
Go ahead, sir.
They said on Barstool's Wrestling, when it comes to the acronym TSF, the world is your oyster. So
yes. Yeah, they don't care. They're just like, whatever. We thought it sounded cool. Make it what you want. And honestly, that's pretty awesome. The mysterious, it gets people talking, Houston, I was going to say, we're up about an hour. I usually end the show about now. Do you have any last parting thoughts or anything you want to say? Tell people when and where they can check out your stuff.
Yeah, so check out Chasing the Graph on Facebook at Chasing the Graph. I'm going to see if I can get it right. It's just like that on Facebook and on Twitter as well. And on Instagram, that I never post from at all, is Chasing the Graph 8. And Instagram is stupid because it says that Chasing the Graph is already taken, but if you search the database of Instagram, there's no Chasing the Graph account. So I have
a quick question for you. Do you have an Instagram account just so you can view the reels your wife sends you? Because that's the only reason I have an Instagram account.
That's the only
reason. Because she sent me all
this
Instagram stuff of like puppy videos. I'm like, I don't have an Instagram account. It's blocked. I can't do it. And then, also to get verified for OnlyFans, they said I had to have another social media account. So it's like both of those. But really, it's just so I can watch the dog videos my wife sends me. So
that's why I have a TikTok. That's why I think I have like 12 videos, but I haven't just because my wife will send me like 30 in the middle of the day, and I'm like trying to look through them all while I'm at work. And I probably spend a total of 30 minutes a month just leisurely on TikTok.
I hate TikTok because you open the app and it's like blasting you in the face. And it's like, dude, I'm at work. Like, we got to chill. Like, don't play anything. Let me get to my page, see how my videos did. Oh, 200 views. Okay, that's cool. And then let me close it without.
There,
Houston, man. This is a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I definitely appreciate you having me on. And I was like, for the longest time, I was like, damn, I want to be on a Tom show. I want to be on a Tom show. And then you were like, you said something in the group chat, like, I sent out, kind of an open invitation and nobody accepted it. And I was like, wait. I didn't know it got posted. Let me get March 1st.
Yeah. That's the thing is, I forget because I'm old, I'm early 40s, so I'm about to die. I had to create that show account so people could DM it so I could keep track because people were sending DMs and then I was getting like spam bot DMs and then all the group chats I'm in, people were getting lost. So that's why I created that show account. It's just to track. It's to make announcements and to track so I can keep, focus. Mine's a disaster. My Twitter's a disaster, but that one's focused and organized. But yeah, anyone is welcome on my show. Like when I put it out there, you don't have to have a podcast like Houston. You don't have to be, like Suze, who used to work for Tops and works for Golden. You don't have to have a background in anything. You just have to be my Twitter friend, because that's what this show's about. We talk because we're friends. I want to get to know my friends better. I also want to lift my friends up and showcase them. Like, this is why I love Houston. Like, I laughed so much. We had so much fun. Like, and I hope that's infectious and that you guys check him out, because if he gets one more follower for this show, then good, because I love him. And I meant when I said, like, I look up to you, because you do know, what I wish I knew, like I said, I don't want to interview wrestlers, and I'm not interested in that, but you do have that show. You have been doing that. You do have the knowledge of, the independent wrestlers that I wish I had. So you are, like an idol and someone I look up to, but also a brother that, we could hit each other with fluorescent lights with. So it's that kind of like love. You're like a big little brother. And I just want you to know that, like, and I mean that sincerely, like, if it wasn't for like you and Caleb, like, I probably wouldn't have any interest in wrestling at all right now. But you too, you're so kind and so willing to like teach and talk to people, that it's just a nice, warm, welcoming environment for people to come in, and and just hang out and just be like, hey guys, I don't know this person, tell me about him. Like, when Hate followed me, I was like, who's Hate Hogan? And then you ran it down, and then I could Wikipedia it, and it's just like, this is awesome. Like, you guys are like a great source. Yeah, I could look it up myself, but then I don't get the emotion behind it, like, I don't get your take, like, oh yeah, that guy's or oh, I love it, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
For wrestling, you need that. Like, you don't want that research, like, oh, I'm going to do a book report on the Beatles, tell me about them. And hear people's reaction, like, oh, they're old, oh, they're terrible, oh, they're the best ever. Wrestling, you want that reaction, because that's what it's all about. Like, oh, he's terrible, I hate him, oh, he did this and that. And you were like, yes, I want to drink the heel juice. It's not a foot joke, but I guess it kind of is. But Houston, I tried to end the show like 5 minutes ago, but we love each other so much we can keep talking. Any last things you say before we go? Say it, and then I'm gonna run the credits, and then you can just skip on out, and I'll see you in Twitter in like 5 minutes. So.
No, I just wanted to to thank you again for having me on and letting me ramble on about wrestling and a bunch of pointless stories. So I definitely appreciate it, man.
No, none of our stories are pointless. They are who we are, and I want you back. I'm trying to get more and more people exposure before I try to have multiple guests come back. But I 100% want you to come back, and maybe we can skip the introductory phase, and we can like, here's some stuff we should really talk about, and then I think it would just, like, if we had a more structured show, we could have a ton of fun.
I am down like the economy.
So yeah, all right, everybody, have a good night. If you are watching this live on March the 1st, 2022, I'm going to be on Twitter Spaces in 20 minutes doing a mental health every Tuesday after the Tom Show, like 30 minutes after or so. It's going to be a mental health space, and it's not for like, oh, it's just, our lives aren't bad, most of us, but we are depressed, or they are bad and we are depressed. But it's just kind of like, hey, come. If, like, I have stormtroopers behind me. I have a loving wife. I have 2 jobs. I get to interview amazing people, but I'm depressed as AF, as they say, and I can't control it. And that's what that space is there for. So you can come listen, you can come talk. If I'm hosting a space, everyone is, can talk. I'm not going to shut anybody down unless you're vulgar or awful or anything. Yeah. So yeah, come join us, hang out if you, like that, or if you have friends that are, a little depressed and you want to understand why, or just understand them better, come hang out. It's going to be fun. Houston, I love you, buddy. But this is the best part of my day, is talking to my friends. I hurt from smiling so much. I normally have my resting butt face, just the.
Yep.
But now it's hurting because I got my nipples showing. Okay, guys, it's theme song, and then we are out. I love everybody. Houston, I love you, man.
Appreciate